Hello everyone, my name is Paul Third, and this week I'm going to be discussing a new product, which is the IK Multimedia iLOUD Pro. Now many people will be surprised by this because anybody that watches the channel will know that I'm in a speaker journey right now, and it's been mostly bigger monitors that I've been trying, like mostly 8 inches and some 6 inches. This isn't a paid video, right, by the way. Like, I've not been paid a dime to make this. Many of you have been telling me you've been getting great translation with iLOUD'S. So when I got in touch with IK Multimedia, and I think this is the right decision, they said, right, instead of us sending you the MTM Precisions, which is what I'm angling, they said, right, let us send you a new pair that we're away to release, the iLOUD Micro Pros. That way you can judge if you like the sound of it, and hopefully if you like the sound of the micros, then you'll like the sound as it upscales, to the flagship. Now, for anybody asking, what the main differences are, very, very simple. I don't need to go into too much detail. These are twice as loud as the original micros. They're 50 watt per speaker, and they have the arc calibration built in with the DSP. It's really easy to do. You'll have an arc mic that comes with the pair if you buy a pair. You connect the mic into the back of the speaker, you hold down the calibration button for 3 seconds, and then when you're ready, you press the button once. It'll then flash orange, and then it'll run through 4 sweeps, and then it'll give you a green light if it was successful. Do the same on the other speaker, bada bing, bada boom. That's it, done, genuinely. And it's great because you could do that wherever you are. So these are great travel speakers because you can calibrate the room wherever you are and you don't need any external software. It's really good. However, what I will say very quickly, when I first tried to do it, it wasn't working. I needed to connect them via USB, 2 of them, to the computer, go into X Monitor software, and then do a firmware update on both, and then they worked absolutely perfect. Now, I mentioned X Monitor software. That's a very, very handy feature as well, as what it means is that you can connect these via USB. You could see the calibration for yourself. You can tweak the calibration, and you can also do a more in-depth 4-point calibration, which is what I did with these. I actually prefer the 4-point calibration. And that is basically it. They're twice as loud, and it's got the calibration built in. Kind of what's not to like? Well, how about the sound? Now, many of you have been telling me about iLOUD'S and like, Paul, the translation I've been getting on these. And I know many people that have like had these micros for like a secondary reference, and I've always wondered why. And I kind of get it now. If I was to describe these speakers in a nutshell, it would be fast, forward, punchy. That's it. Really, you can just use the 2. Forward and fast. Very, very forward. Very, very loud. Honestly, it baffles me how fucking loud these are. Like, so loud. Like, honestly, I would say that I struggle to get the Calis, the Cali INs, as loud and as like forward as these. The phase coherence with the DSP, whatever they're doing in there, is fantastic. If you check the measurement of left and right, the 2 are very, very consistent, and it's amazing just how forward everything is. Transient response is so fast. One of the fastest speakers I've had in the studio, which is amazing. Like, honestly, like speed-wise, these give like focal shape 65s a run for their money. It's interesting because when I listen to the focal shape 65 mix that I did, it's on my website, in my portfolio, I was kind of automatically brought back to where I was. Obviously, there's differences, right? So a big thing about these is that the tweeter is a little bit on the fatiguing side for me. It's a little bit abrasive, a little bit shouty, and a little bit coloured, if I'm going to be honest with you, compared to, say, like the focal shape 65s, where the tweeter, I could mix on that all day. But, the thing that I found most comforting when I was listening to the mix was how the translation of like the kick and the snare and the forwardness of the vocal, everything just kind of reminded me of when I was kind of back mixing it. However, I did feel that like the acoustic guitars on the sides were a little bit too pokey and just maybe a little bit too aggressive. And then I listened to an Ariana Grande song called God is a Woman, and I normally like to listen to the end of that track because on some speakers, what I find is that if the speaker's a little bit on the harsh side and maybe the coloured side, the backing vocals at the very end can sound a little bit piercing and like, oh, I want to turn you down a bit and like soothe you a little bit. I don't get it on the Calis, I don't get it on the shapes, but stock, I do find the tweeter to be a little bit piercing a little bit. What's interesting is after calibration, it kind of seemed to calm the tweeter down a little bit. And they've got a DSP on the back. So it's got a bass boost, a bass cut, and a high cut and a high boost. I used the bass boost and the high cut to kind of give me, a kind of a far field kind of response, which is most akin, to many control rooms and what we actually hear. You don't really want the sim to be flat, in my opinion, which is what seems Art kind of defaults to, seems to be flat, going from X monitor anyway. So I use the back, the DSP, and it sims exactly the way I want it to sim. The low frequency extension, now many people talk about these sounding a lot, bassier than what you would imagine. Yeah, it's impressive. I'm using the 50 hertz low frequency extension, but I'm pushing them to the limits. I think there were some songs, now I'm listening loud to these. I'm listening at between 80 and 85 dB SPL in this room. So I like to listen loud, and I'm pushing them. And there were certain songs, like there was a Sabrina Carpenter song where I just felt the kick was in certain bits, maybe just is that kind of pushing the speaker just a little bit too much? But it's something that I didn't notice all the time. Maybe I'm pushing the speaker way, way, way too much and expecting too much. But in terms of the low end, I do like it. I do feel that for what's there, again, you fucking hell, if you have the Presonus or the Kali IN8s or any good 6-inch, 8-inch speaker, it's going to produce more subs than this thing, right? That's something that I really loved about the Kali IN UNF, which isn't here anymore. It's actually in the live room because I prefer these now. As much as I love the low end of the IN UNFs, they don't have the forwardness or the localization or the speed of these. So whilst I'm lacking the subs, I do feel like the low end that is there is quite detailed, and I can tell the difference between kick and bass, which I'm very, very surprised about because they're so small. But I'd say in a nutshell, they're very fast, very forward, extremely good phase coherence. The speed of the transients means that the localization is very good. I feel like panning wise, I could pick stuff out really well. I just feel like these do need calibrated. I wouldn't use these stock. Originally, I switched them on and I didn't have the desk mode on, and it sounded like fucking hell. The bass was whoa, where did all this bass come from? This is too much. And I used the desk button on the back, and all of a sudden, there we go. It just made sense. But the tweeter just seemed to list a little bit on the harsh side. To get the full punch of these, I do feel I've got to use the 50 hertz low extension, and I use again that kind of low boost with the high cut. And I get a really, really good sound that I feel translates really well. I think you'll get a really, really good translation on these. I kind of get why many people like to use them, and I get why even one of my mentors used to have these and use them as a secondary reference, which is what I feel that these are really good for. For mixing engineers, look, I always advise, get bigger monitors, right? Hear your low end. Let the low end fill the room. Get as big a speaker as you can for your room. But, right, for secondary referencing, if you want to double check your vocal levels, your bass, your kick, your snare, you want to judge levels, these will do it. Because the phase coherence is so good, everything's just in front of you. It's like the focal shape, so it was yep, snare needs to be there, bass needs to be there, vocal needs to be there. All your punch, all your transients, you're just bum, 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 bum. That needs to be a little bit more compressed. Right, job done. I was wow, this is a tool for me. You could do good mixes on these, but I would always advise, if you've got a small room and that's all the budget you have, that's, again, your room might be small and this is all you could kind of get in that room that works for your room, get a pair of headphones and judge your low end on them and definitely have a second reference. The tweeter, I'm still a little bit unsure about. Maybe I'm pushing the low end a bit too much, which is maybe colour in the tweeter. It's maybe causing a bit of THD in there. It does say 0.5% THD in the manual. I don't know. I would say the tweeter is a little bit coloured, in my opinion, but for a speaker that size, and I honestly can't believe how loud they are. I was listening in the Atmos room about 2 hours ago. Long story short, I had to change everything because the circular ITU, it's not supported by Dolby anymore, so I had to try and see if I can make an equidistant work. Had to unplug everything. Honestly, it was a nightmare because I had this a long story, right? Either way, I was listening in stereo to the Kalis. And I was okay, yeah. I was getting an idea for how the change sims with the new layout. Came in here, I was whoa, this is way better. There's the vocal, there's the snare, there's the punch. Everything I was missing in the Kalis, this gave me. And it's something that I've realised that I really, 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 really want in speakers. And I do believe, hopefully, that the second set of speakers I'm waiting to get, which is the head type 20s, are hopefully going to be, like, fingers crossed, the ones for me, because I've got a linearizer on there, and I've been told that they're very punchy, very fast, and that I know that's the sound that I want. Depth, I don't really care. You're not going to get a lot of depth with these. They're very forward, very fast. I do like the sound of these to the point where, like, they have, relegated the INUNFs. I'm using these as a secondary reference now because they're giving me what the focal shapes were, which is something that I found really, really important for translation. But I need to get the MTM precisions. I need to hear the three ways. I need to, because if it sounds as fast and as punchy and is like phase coherent and is consistent, then surely I've got to get the step up. So I will say right now, hopefully the next time you see me do IK Multimedia, it will be the iLOUD MTM precision, because I do think I'm going to like it. Like, there's certain speakers in my head now that I think I would like. It's funny because when I listened to Amphions at Gearfest, I was like, switch these off, But the room was a fucking cupboard. It was the smallest room ever, where, anybody else I've spoken to said to me, Paul, you'll love them, because the phase coherence is like bang on, and like they're so incredibly fast. All the details there, and it tells you everything that you need to know. And which is kind of what I feel these do. But I do feel these to be a little bit fatiguing. Like, I could mix on these for 4-6 hours on the trot, right? I could do that with the focal shapes, but I couldn't do that with these. I do feel them to be a little bit fatiguing. Honestly, if you've got a main speaker setup, or maybe a headphone setup that's, maybe a little bit transient light, and you've got all the depth, and, with that setup, and, you can judge all the panning, you've got the mix sounding great, but you're just a little bit unsure of your overall levels, put these on at the end of the mix, and honestly, you'll just be like, kick there, snare there, a little bit of compression there, vocal up there, and then bang, it'll translate really, really, really well. And if I had to travel someplace, I would normally do it on headphones, and I used to always say, look, I'd always do it on headphones. But if I was in a hotel, I would take these with me, because I can calibrate them, and because I know they just sound really good. And again, I've got these like in a 90 centimeter equilateral triangle, and I could have these kind of anywhere, and I'm pretty confident these would do the job because they're so forward. So yeah, really good for traveling, really good for a secondary reference, fast, punchy, detailed, a little bit fatiguing. But regardless, this is my honest opinion. They are going to stay in the control room. I'm going to use them. And yeah, there you have it. Waffling again. Jesus Christ. My name is Paul Third, and I'll see you whenever I see you.